Welcome to A Pod Somewhere in Time. I'm your host, John, and I'm here with my co-host, Matthias. You may be watching us on the Lair of the Alchemist YouTube channel, or you may be listening on your favorite streaming platform. Either way, welcome. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing Iron Maiden's eighth studio album, No Prayer for the Dying. Released on October 1st, 1990, this would be an album in a period of change for the band, both on the musical and personal fronts. The album would find the band moving away from the more progressive aspects of the previous album, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son, and moving more towards a more back to basics sound. A significant change would take place in the band with the departure of Adrian Smith. His replacement, Yannick Gers, would enter the band through his work on Bruce Dickinson's first solo album, Tattoo Millionaire, which had been released in 1990. The desire to return to a more back to basic sound also led the band to record in a newly renovated barn on Steve Harris's property. The album would represent a number of lasts for the band. The last album cover to feature the work of Derek Riggs, and the last album to be fully produced by Martin Birch. All this change left some fans confused, but the album still performed strongly on the charts, reaching number 2 in the UK and number 17 in the US. In the light of history, the album is often viewed as a transitional period for the band, one that would eventually lead to Bruce's departure. The No Prayer on the Road tour would begin on September 19th, 1990 in Milton Keynes, England, and officially end almost a year later on September 5th, 1991 in Bern, Switzerland. The stage set would reflect the back to basics approach of the album and feature minimal stage props. Many songs from the album would be featured in their set list for the tour. Anthrax would find themselves as a support act during the American leg and some dates in Europe. Another opening band of note would be Wolfsbane, featuring Blaze Bayley on vocals. Blaze would find himself only a few years later fronting Iron Maiden. All right, Matthias, No Prayer for the Dying. What are your thoughts and memories of this record and your thoughts of it today?
Yeah, in 1990, I was a full-on Maiden fan, and I was eagerly awaiting the release of this album. Of course, I was 16 years old, and I had learned that Adrian had left the band, of course, before the actual album came out, and I was very sad about that because I think that Adrian was my sort of favorite member of the band, and to see him leave the band was just well, it was a bit heartbreaking actually. Back then, uh, we we don't really know the exactly what was going on, but we'll get into that a bit later. So, um, my first impression of the album was that it was a bit of a letdown. I I missed the epic of the album. There are no really long song, and as a 16-year-old, that was the Maiden I was used to. They were having these long epic songs, but not on this one. Uh, and I also thought that the album cover was a bit more boring, not much details, not much going on with a Derek Riggs painting. So I thought that also was a bit of a letdown. But I mean, I soon got into the album, and it took me a few listens to sort of get into that new Maiden of 1990. And I think I enjoyed it a lot. I still enjoy it very much. I think I even perhaps enjoy it more today than I did back in 1990. And I mean, there are many, many details to get into that are what went on before they recorded this album, because it all plays into what happened and what it sort of effect it had on the very record. But over to you first, John. I know this was released when you had your famous time
Mhm.
away from metal. So, so when
Yeah.
did you actually listen to this, and what was your reaction
Yeah, I
at that
didn't
time?
hear this when it came out. I didn't buy, as I mentioned during our Seventh Son of a Seventh Son episode, that I didn't buy Seventh Son of a Seventh Son till I started getting back into metal and Iron Maiden with Brave New World. And I think I I went and bought after I got Brave New World, started to go sort of backwards to see what I missed. I bought Seventh Son, and I'm pretty sure I bought Fear of the Dark, and then I bought No Prayer for the Dying. And I just remember feeling like it was not a horrible record, but it was just kind of there. It was a 5 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10. It didn't really grab me. I thought it was okay. And at that time, being that I had been away from Maiden for a little bit, I was also rediscovering, going back and listening to Peace of Mind and Number of the Beast and all that kind of stuff. I think when did they do the original? I should have looked this up. When they started remastering the catalog here in the US, I'm guessing that was probably
They
like,
had they had a sort of re-release in 95, 96, I think. And then it was the remaster series that came out in 98.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that would make sense because uh, that's also when Brave New World came out. I started to get interested in the band. I remember roughly around that same time, the remasters were starting to come out. I know they were originally issued on Castle in Europe, but here in the US, yeah, 19, let's see here, 98. It looks like they were sort of reissued 95, 98, somewhere in there. So yeah, but I just remember just thinking it didn't excite me. I thought it was okay. I thought that there were some songs that were okay. I didn't like the way Bruce sang on it. He sings with this more aggressive tone to his voice. But I will say that I say especially the last like 5 to 7 years, this album has really grown on me, and I find myself listening to this album a lot. And I think it's because I'm sort of burnt out on Peace of Mind and Number of the Beast and those records, which I've listened to a million times. Back when I first started to get back into metal in the mid 90s, I hadn't listened to those albums in a couple years. So it was like rediscovering those records. But then it was like, all right, I think like I said, in the last like 5 to 7 years, I've found a lot of things to kind of like about No Prayer for the Dying. I mean, is it as good as any of the records before it? I would say no. It's kind of obvious that it's sort of a step down in some ways, and getting it out more when we talk about the individual songs. But yeah, so early on, I was just kind of like, and didn't really listen to it that much. Would occasionally pull it out, and it never completely grabbed me, But it's really the last like 7 years or so that I've started to dig into it more and kind of enjoy it. I think Steve has some great bass playing on it, and there's some good guitar stuff on it. Uh, But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I kind of listen to it a lot now, and I think it's because it's still in the classic era before the reunion.
mm,
Uh, and because of the burnout factor with the other records, I find myself listening to this one kind of a lot.
mm. So there was a lot of stuff going on before because they had a sort of year off in 89, uh, and that was planned. Adrian was supposed to do and did his first solo album ASAP, Adrian Smith and Project. And we talked about the background for uh, ASAP when we did the whole population of Hackney episode a while back, because the Adrian Smith and Project uh, band sort of consisted of the same members that played uh, in the whole population of Hackney. And if you remember, just to jog your memory, those are the guys behind those B-sides for Somewhere in Time. So Adrian had this idea to record his album with those guys. Nico was supposed to do that album too, but he had got married and couldn't or wouldn't like to do the album as it turned out. So Andy Barnett had a band going on the side, or rather his main priority, I guess. And they used Zach Starkey, the son of Ringo Starr, as a drummer for the album, and the bass player from that band as well. And the album, in short, perhaps we'll do a special episode and talk about Adrian Smith and Project somewhere in the future. I don't know, but it could be interesting. It's an album that is very polished. It's very, very AOR melodic kind of hard rock. I wouldn't say metal, but hard rock.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly an album that I have on heavy rotation. Truth be told, I haven't really been listening to it since, well, back then. The album was not even released in North America. And that was one of the reasons why Iron Maiden actually decided to drop EMI Capital in North America and change to Epic instead for this album. But let's not get too sidetracked here. In '89, they also released a Made in England video. Steve edited that. And that in turn, because Steve was asked by their publishing company, Samba, was asked, like, do you have any songs for a movie soundtrack? And he said that I don't really have the time, but I guess Bruce, he's always out and about and has stuff cooking. So the publishing company asked Bruce, said, do you have anything? And he lied and said, of course I do. So they did a song called Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. It was released on the, can you see here, Nightmare on Elm Street soundtrack. And this CD is a compilation of songs, and it also it's the only record with Iron Maiden and Samantha Fox on the same disc. So this is a rare one.
So it's listed as an Iron Maiden song on the soundtrack.
No, it's Bruce Dickinson
Okay.
solo.
So that's a different version than
it is an entirely different version. It's with Yannick Gers on guitar, but it's another drummer and another bass player, and it's released under the name of Bruce Dickinson. And you can see here, there isn't that many official releases of this very song, and this is a American promo, which is very hard to get and a nice collectible.
Wow.
So what happened was that Bruce recorded this song. Steve heard it and thought that it's a great song, Bruce. You should keep that for the next Iron Maiden album. And I guess Bruce was a bit flattered and said, of course, we'll save it for the next album. So that is sort of a reason why it wasn't used on Bruce's solo album that came out in 1990, the Tattooed Millionaire album. And like I said, Yannick Gers was playing on this one. The publishing company thought that Bring Your Daughter was such a great song, so they asked, do you have more songs lying around? And again, Bruce lied and said, of course I do. And then he went to Yannick's place and said, okay, we need to write an album worth of songs. So they did this, wrote all the songs for Tattooed Millionaire very quickly and released that. And just like Adrian Smith and Project, that album, I'm not that super keen on the Tattooed Millionaire. And I guess we'll also do a sort of Bruce solo recording episode, or maybe more in the future. So let's not talk too much about that. What is interesting is that the album Tattooed Millionaire was produced by Chris Sangaridis, who also, of course, at the same time, more or less, had a great big hit record with Painkiller, Judas Priest album. So he was like a hot producer at the time. So Bruce also was in a TV series and did a show for a TV series called Paradise Club. A bit forgettable, but it's a nice trivia. And he also sang on an all-star lineup of Rock Aid Armenia, doing a version of Smoke on Water released. There was this earthquake catastrophe in Armenia, and they had all kinds of charity trying to raise money to help these people out. And this single was like their big thing. They released this. It was Tony Iommi, David Gilmour was on it as well. So lots of famous musicians, and Bruce singing one of the verses along with Ian Gillan, of course, was also singing. So that was all in 1989. So now we're moving into what was going on as Maiden started to gather again the fall, autumn of 1989. They are now beginning to meet and start to write new material. And I think, this is just my theory, but I think that Steve was directly or indirectly sort of influenced by Bruce's song Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. And he liked that sort of rock vibe, the direct sort of style of that song. And I think that consciously or subconsciously influenced Steve's urge to want to go in a more rockin' sort of direct direction for the next Maiden album. And this is when things are starting to get a bit sour between the band and Adrian Smith. So Adrian Smith was, it's not that Adrian himself have talked a lot about his mental health or anything for those few years leading up to him actually leaving the band, but there have been reports about Adrian sort of sound checking for hours because he didn't get the right sound for the live shows. He just seemed to, obsessed with tiny details and never really fully sort of enjoying stuff. There was also always something wrong, like, great show tonight. I didn't get that solo right. Or the sound was bad, stuff like that. So I think the other guys sort of sensed that there was something not right with the guy. And when they started to talk and discuss the direction for what would become No Prayer for the Dying, Adrian was very sure that he wanted to continue the path that they had with Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. And when Steve sort of, and also the rest of the guys wants to go in a more like, we can't go any further in that direction, because in Steve's mind, they had done that to the full. So he thought that let's go in another direction. I don't think that Steve said, let's go backwards to the early days.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been like sort of in hindsight discussed, like, and especially by Bruce, who is also was very sort of keen to point fingers at the album No Prayer for the Dying and everything that was wrong with it. But he also admits that he was as guilty as anyone else in the band, wanting to sort of just go for it, make sure the songs, more rockin' songs. And when they sort of decided to record the album in Steve's barn, I think that was one of the main issues that Adrian couldn't really accept. His heart wasn't into it anymore. He wanted to continue to work on that more polished sound of Seventh Son or Somewhere in Time. And now all the other guys want to record in a barn, literally.
Yeah.
Want to record in a barn using the Rolling Stone mobile. And Martin Birch, the producer, was perhaps not super enthusiastic, but at the same time, he's doing work for the band. So if they want to record in Steve's barn, and he think you can do it, he said, okay, let's give it a try. So it was sort of agreed that he should leave. So was he sacked? No. Did he want to leave the band? Perhaps. But as the reports say that they sort of talked about it, and later Adrian has talked about that his heart wasn't really into it. So even now he thought it was a good thing for him to actually leave the band because he had his mind on other stuff. And we talked about the Adrian Smith and Project, his solo album. And I mean, I think he was keen to continue to do that and try to do something else. But leaving the band, he didn't really do anything for a few years, actually. So I don't know if he had a plan or if it just happened. Uh, I guess we'll never know until he publishes his own biography
Uh,
or something. Um, and I actually the initial plan wasn't to record in the barn, but as the band thought they were in such a hurry to record this album, they had planned to perhaps record in the same place like Seven Sun Musicland in Munich, in Germany, but that wasn't available until like April or sometime in the spring. And they also thought about recording at Battery Studios, where they did Killers and Number of the Beast. But it was the same thing there. The studio itself wasn't available to record until a few months later, and that's why they decided to just get the Rolling Stone mobile and record there instead. So uh, now Adrian is out, but they have actually started to record the album with only one guitarist in the band. And it was actually Steve that suggested that they should ask Yannick. Because Bruce, in his mind, thought that I can't be the guy that brings my pal into the band. That would just be sort of ridiculous or inappropriate or something like that. But it was Steve that said that I like the guitar player that Yannick, you did Tattooed Millionaire with. So he said to Bruce, "Can you ask Yannick if he's available or want to do this?" So Bruce called up Yannick, and Yannick immediately thought that something had happened with Adrian, that he was ill or injured or something. He was very keen not to sort of tread on Adrian's metaphorical toes. But they assured him that he had left the band, and if you want to do this, it will be like a full-time member. And so they just gave him like a day and a half to learn a few songs. The Trooper, Iron Maiden, Prisoner, and Children of the Damned, for various reasons. They're all very different kinds of songs. So now Yannick is in the band. They already started to record, and now we're at the we're at the album, so to speak. They are recording the album. Um, there was one thing I have been trying to find a source for this, but I clearly remember reading somewhere that Steve said at the time in 1990, doing press for the album, that he thought that Yannick was a more of a natural lead player or something along those lines, rather than Adrian. And I that sort of, it still annoys me that that he thought like that. What is a natural lead player, John?
yeah, I'm
Is
wondering if he's because as I was listening to this record, my thought was when it's Dave and Adrian, Dave is the more off the cuff, shooting from the hip. Sounds like he's just kind of playing live in the studio type of player. Whereas Adrian sounds like it's much more thought out.
Mhm.
Adrian's guitar solos are much, much more thought out. So Yannick, I think, is closer to Dave in that he also feels kind of off the cuff and he's just going for it and that kind of thing. And I'm guessing that maybe that's what Steve might have been referencing. You mentioned that I get the impression from reading about Yannick, or I'm sorry, reading about Adrian, that Adrian was a guy that was probably a lot more particular. I
mm,
can picture him doing multiple takes of a lead, really wanting to get certain aspects of it right, whether
yeah,
it be the tone or something like that. Whereas I get the impression with Yannick and Dave, it's kind of like plug in, turn up. How did that one
yeah,
work? Yeah, pretty cool. Let me do
yeah,
one more. Okay,
yeah,
pick from those two, and they're just kind of going for it. They're
yeah,
not really putting a whole lot of thought into it. And I think although I do think that Yannick has some interesting leads on here, it does miss out from that more melodic Michael Schenker like style of
yeah, yeah,
Adrian because Dave is already a guy that's kind of sort of, they complemented each other nicely.
yeah,
Dave, the
yeah.
guy's fingers flying, Adrian, the guy that's more melodic and comes at it from that side. So,
Mm. But if natural if natural is good or bad, I think I think it's a weird way to look at it.
well,
You
you
want
mentioned too that
someone.
Adrian wasn't a lead guitar player, that he was a rhythm player,
No, no, yeah. But
right? So,
can you hear that listening to all these Iron Maiden albums from
right,
the 80s?
no, but in some ways it probably made him a better player because he had
Mm,
to think about it more, because he had to approach it more from a melodic, what do I want to say type perspective. Whereas again, Yannick and Dave just seem to be more, they just sort of
So,
go
so
for it type of thing, and it
so
just comes
so
out.
I'll stick my neck out here. So if Dave and Janik are more natural lead players, I want unnatural lead
Yeah,
players. I don't say that Janik is bad because the guy has a ton of identity, which is a rare thing. You can hear a Janik solo and know it's Jan within like a few seconds only because he has this very unique tone. And
yeah,
in my book, that is never bad. It's a good thing to have sort of your own style. But I'm an Adrian guy. I'm a total fanboy of Adrian and his way of constructing melodic, beautiful
yeah,
solos. And we don't talk about the lack of speed because Adrian can play pretty fast licks as
yeah,
well. It's that's not the case, but it's just I just love his phrasing, the
yeah,
way the tone, everything about Adrian.
yeah.
But
And it definitely, the albums without him, they miss that because it was a nice compliment to Dave. So they
yeah,
they sort of miss that style, that more melodic style.
yeah. There is before we leave this area about the duality, the two styles of between Dave and Janik. And let's leave Adrian. Adrian is now out of the band, so let's leave Adrian, unfortunately. But one thing that I find kind of funny is that you said that Dave had this more off the cuff, sort of spontaneous style when Adrian was in the band. Now Adrian is out of the band, and we have a guitar player who is even more a loose cannon than Dave himself is.
Hmm.
And that in turn made Dave play more melodic, well, perhaps laid back styles
Yeah,
of solos, which I think is a great. I love Dave's solos on this album because he had to find another sort of niche because
yeah,
Yannick is so much himself
yeah,
that Dave had to do something else. And
yeah,
that is one of the things I love about this album. There are loads of things I love about this album.
yeah,
And that is one of the things.
yeah. I agree with that.
Mm. So, before we start to go into the individual tracks, there is time for the show and tell. And so, you are all aware of the album sleeve. This is the sleeve, and it, the album sleeve, like I said, I found it a bit boring at the time. I do think it's one of Derek Riggs lesser inspired. And I think if we talk to Derek Riggs himself, he would agree. Because by this time, he had sort of mentally checked out of the Maiden thing. He more or less did like the band, or rather Rod Smallwood, the manager, instructed him to do. Uh, but there is one weird sort of criticism against the cover that I like to address, and there are many that says they think this is what is a very very ugly Eddie, and that sort of is one of the things that Derek had lost his sort of
Mm.
ability to make a good Eddie. But if we look at the grave robber on the side and details surrounding Eddie himself, it's not like there's a lack of talent and sort of style to do that. It's because Eddie has been in a grave, dear listener. That's why he looks ugly. He's supposed to look like this because he's been buried.
Yeah, it's the, you know what though? It's the grave robber that ruins it for me. That's what I remember seeing that cover, and it's the grave robber guy. They should have, like, if it was Eddie popping up out of the ground and there was like, I don't know. The grave robber guy is too big in the image. I don't like the way it looks. I think it sort of ruins the image. They just should have
But
done something like Eddie coming up out of the grave there, maybe have a shovel next to him and feet running away or something, like people were digging him up and then they ran it. The grave robber guy is just too big in the picture.
I think the you are aware of the reissues, the remasters, because at those they took the grave robber away. It's another version
Yeah.
that Derek did himself. And me personally, I don't like that one at all. I prefer this one with the grave robber. I think that's a more interesting idea. Maybe it's not as good, but again, it's not the best cover in the first place.
Yeah, I
And
think they could have found, go ahead. Yeah.
do you remember these?
Yeah, the long box. Wow.
The long box, and this is quite interesting because this was the only place where if you bought this one, this is a now I'm showing a so-called long box, and in the US they sort of had this when they released the CDs, they used the regular vinyl stands,
Racks. Yeah.
racks. So they did this long box, which is
Allowed it to
in
stand up.
in
Yeah,
the
so you could
same
see it.
size
Yeah.
as the album on vinyl. But here you can see the whole image all the way down,
Yeah.
so you can see the whole of the grave. And this was a rare one, an interesting one to try to find out
The other
and
thing
find for
too
your
is
collection.
turn that long box sideways. It looks way better like that than it does the other way around, in my opinion.
Are
But
you sure?
you can't really get that on the vinyl record. It doesn't, yeah. And at previous Derek Riggs, there would have been little etchings in the stones, and there would have been little things, little eye candy things. Here it's pretty much just like,
This space on the lid of the casket was
yeah,
saved for the band to sort of put something in there. It's on the CD version from '98, but on the original one from
yeah.
1990, they sort of just forgot to put something there, which is also a strange thing. This is a rare one. Finally, it's a Russian LP of the album, and this is the, as you can guess, it's the Tail Gunner illustration. They were thinking about releasing Tail Gunner as a single, and this would have been the cover. So they used
Oh,
this primarily in the UK on the picture disc. So the UK official picture disc of No Pray for the Dying has the Tail Gunner illustration. But this is a very rare Russian version of No Pray for the Dying. But enough of that. Should we go into the very songs?
yeah. Yeah, let's jump into the album. All right, so it starts with Tail Gunner. The first thing I think of when I think of this song is that bass, do 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 do,
Mm.
right at the beginning. Yeah, this one's okay. Again, I have to take 1 or 2 points off my ranking of this record for Bruce's vocals on this. I really dislike that sort of he's trying to sound raspy or something, uh, and sort of a theme that runs through this record is you get songs that sound like weaker, lesser cousins, lesser versions of other songs. This is like a weaker Aces High. This is a weaker Where Eagles Dare. It's cool. I like it. I do like the energy of it. I really like the riff that comes in right before the guitar solo and the rhythm that's kind of going on underneath the guitar solo. So this is again a theme of this whole record. Like I like this song, and I think it's one of the better songs on the record. This would probably be in my top 3 or 4 on the record. But does it live up to classic era of the band? In my opinion, no. And that just, I remember when I was listening to this stuff for the first time, it was like, yeah, this is good. But it wasn't like, whoa, this is blowing my mind. It was just like, yeah, it's a decent song. It's a good album opener, the way it
Mm.
builds and everything.
I love Tail Gunner, and I was really hoping that they would bring it out for the last Run for Your Lives tour that they did, because they said they were playing songs from the up till Fear the Dark. They didn't play any song off this album, unfortunately. And I think Tail Gunner should have been that song off No Pray for the Dying. But anyway, this was I think I mentioned before, yeah, showing the sleeve for the Russian one. One of the suggested songs for being the first single of the album. Steve later said, a few years later, said that he thought that maybe they picked the wrong one. They shouldn't have done the song that's coming after this one, Holy Smoke. I think Tail Gun is a much better song. I don't really buy that comparison with Aces High, because I think Aces High is another type of song, really. Uh, sure, they have like the airplane sort of
Hmm.
theme to it, but it's just another type of song, in at least to me. And I think this is a very good one. The This is a Steve and Bruce song. Bruce wrote the lyrics, and he said that he got the title being in Amsterdam or something, and walking past a porno, seeing this poster for a porn film called Tail Gunner. so he so he got inspired. That's Bruce for you.
And it fits into his
Anyway,
airplane theme, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
mean it's
so
it's not a bad album opener, but
I like the vibe of the. I mean, the
yeah,
sort of before it gets started, and Bruce thought that the
uh,
sort of phrase, the guitar thing that is going on in the beginning, that sort of inspired him to write about uh, dog fights in the Second World War. Tail gunner. I like this one. Yeah, I do.
all right. Next is Holy Smoke.
Mm.
I don't like this one. And I don't like these straight ahead rock type songs that are on here. I really didn't know that deeply the backstory until you just told it at the beginning of this episode. Uh, I just don't like Iron Maiden doing this kind of thing. I don't like this chorus. It's too like I don't know. It's too straightforward. I'm gonna land up saying the same thing about Bring Your Daughter and Hooks in You. I kind of think of all 3 of those in the same kind of thing. I mean, I get the lyrics. They're, singing about fake preachers and the stuff like that, but it's kind of catchy. I don't like Bruce's vocals again on this. I don't like the way he sings it. No. So for me, this is kind of, I don't really like this one.
Uh, the song is sort of a dig at Jimmy Swaggart, the TV. They sing about Jimmy Reptile, and there was this book by Jimmy Swaggart released in the mid '80s or something called "Music: The New Pornography," and it had Steve Harris on the sleeve of the cover. Yeah, and I am, if any one of you out there listening to this has a copy of this book, I am very much interested in getting this book. It's so funny that TV evangelist Jimmy Swaggart has this book out, but it's I've never seen it anywhere for sale, or I don't think it's available through his church or whatever you call it. But
You
it's
have all these Iron Maiden fans of mine.
he could sell that book a lot.
Yeah.
I think he died this year, Jimmy Swaggart, like
Yeah,
this
I
summer or
think.
something. Yeah, but the song, I don't mind Iron Maiden doing this kind of songs. I think Holy Smoke is a good one. I wouldn't have picked it as a first single. I agree with Later Day Steve saying that they should have picked Tail Gunner because I think that is a way better song. But I think Holy Smoke is a it's an okay song for a second track on this album. It doesn't bring, in my opinion, it doesn't bring the album down in any way. It's just a bit. It's not a it's not a super important kind of song, and I don't think it's intended to be that. And maybe that is one of the criticisms for the album in itself, that many of these songs are not intended to be like huge
Right.
important songs. But I can live with Holy Smoke. I think it's a fun lyric, and you mentioned the way that Bruce sings. His vocal performance is a bit up and down on this album, to be fair, but he's doing this very raspy. I think he called it the angry fox voice or something himself. But yeah, Holy Smoke.
And it's not like they don't do songs like this kind of in their past. Like, for instance, Die With Your Boots On. That's kind of,
Mm,
I'm not going to say it's a party rock song or something, but it's a little bit of like a more straight ahead type song. But I find Die With Your Boots On to be better than Holy
mm,
Smoke. I find,
yeah.
uh, and again, it's not like they've never, Sanctuary is a pretty straight ahead
Mm,
new wave of British heavy
mm,
metal type of song. There's just something about this that sounds really like late 80s, early 90s, where a lot of metal and rock was at that I think it doesn't do a lot for me. And I just remember not hearing this and not really inspiring me to like want to dig into this record because it didn't feel like there was a lot stuff like this didn't feel like there was anything to really dig into. It wasn't like when I rediscovered Seventh Son, I was like, wow, there's a lot going on here. Maybe it didn't quite hit me with the immediacy that Peace of Mind or Number of the Beast or Killers did. But I was like, yeah, I'm gonna, this stuff I can dig into. I gotta immerse myself in this and really
mm,
dig into this. But I don't know. Yeah,
mm.
I don't know why. I just don't really like this song, but all right, so next we move to the title track, No Prayer for the Dying. This is a Steve Harris song. Uh, I do like this one. This kind of occupies the Infinite Dreams, that kind
Mm,
of like slow-ish. I wouldn't know if I call it a ballad, but sort of on the slower side. I really like the guitar melody that sort of plays like at
mm,
the beginning of the song. It reoccurs throughout the song. Again, I think Bruce's vocals are way too over the top at
mm,
times. The double time part I think is really cool when it kicks into that. And I like the melody that Bruce sings right before the main tempo, the slow tempo comes back in. So yeah, I like this one, and I think there's some really cool bass playing on this
Mm,
too, and in this one in particular, I think Steve has some really cool bass lines. This is kind of like the last album for me where Steve plays. Like I
mm,
really feel like on Fear of the Dark, he like holds himself back kind of, and he never
mm,
quite returns to the way he played on Somewhere in Time and Seven Son but on this record there's still a lot of moments where there's some really cool bass stuff and the mix is pretty like simple and that it's
mm,
guitar in one speaker, guitar in another, drums and bass right up the middle.
mm,
And one of the issues that I have with it's not that I don't like Yannick's playing, but I just don't particularly like Iron Maiden as a three piece. And maybe it's me being a bass player. I like it better when it's just guitars panned heavy left and right and drums and bass right in the middle. So you can hear
mm,
the bass better. I find during the reunion era when there's three guitars, the mix gets a little bit too much with the three guitars. But
mm,
yeah, so I like this one. This is one that I really like on the record.
mm. This is one of the songs that, even though I like it, I like all the individual parts of this song. But my main criticism against this song is that it's a bit underdeveloped. Here is the song where Steve could have expanded. He could have brought in some more parts and just make it a bit more grander, more big. Perhaps not like a Seven Son or a Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner kind of song, but I mean something. Do something more. There are so much potential in this song, and I don't think uh, it, it's still a good song, but it could have been an even better song. Um, I'm going to say this now, since you brought it up. You talk about the sound quality and the way the guitars are panned. I mean, the literally the idea was to make a sort of live album in the studio, and I think yeah, they did that. They did a stu a live studio album. If there's a thing called a live studio album, this is an album like that. And uh, I think what they later talked about when they were criticizing recording it in a barn is that the drum sound is what it is. But we've talked about this album. We even did this in defense of No Prayer for the Dying episode on your on there the Alchemist, where I talked at length about how much I love what I call the rehearsal room deluxe sound. You can hear it on Dehumanizer, for example, has that sort of roomy kind of drum sound. Another Never Say Die, also Black Sabbath, same thing. Also have that sort of
Yeah,
very roomy acoustic sort of drum
yeah.
sound. And here you can hear it's like you're standing in front of Nico playing the drums. And I just love that. At the same time, I can understand that you might want to adjust, like have the toms brought out a bit more. But at the same time, you can hear it's a great drummer playing a drum kit that sounds in itself sounds great. Recorded in a proper studio, it would have sounded like like the drum sound on the Seventh Son of a Seventh Son or on Somewhere in Time. But here they went for a more crude, more simple sound, and I just love that. I also think you had a great point about the way that Steve is playing here. He's very energetic, and we will talk about his. I will talk about his bass playing on another track, but I like this one. I don't like Bruce's vocals. I prefer the live version of this song, where he sings a bit more like himself, actually. Uh, but on this one, it sounds like he's straining his voice very unnatural in a way that doesn't really make any sense to me. So, no Pray for the Dying. There's a thing with the title that's a bit of trivia. Uh, Initially, it was supposed to be called A Prayer for the Dying, but then they thought that Eddie would never Pray for the Dying. So it became No Pray for the Dying, which is kind of
Makes
funny.
sense.
It does. So next one, Public
All
Enemy
right.
number one. Hmm?
Yes, next one, Public Enemy number one. I I hate this album title. I mean song title. It's a Murray Dickinson tune. I mean, I get it. Public Enemy number one, Public Enemy, ha ha ha. But I just think it's a terrible, terrible song title for what I feel is a really good song. It's like one of my favorite, one of the songs I really like on this record. And I think it sort of cheapens it. Like it just it
It
cheapens the
does.
song. It really
Yeah.
does. I think the chorus is great on this. The fall on your knees today and pray the world will mend its ways. I love that part of the song. I think that's really
Mm,
catchy.
mm.
Also, Bruce is singing in a more natural kind of voice, at least like during that chorus. Uh, I think the main riff is really good also. I think the guitar solos are really good on them. So this is the first
Mm.
one. Like when I was listening to this record, I was like, Tail Gunner, yeah, it's just okay, pretty good. Holy Smoke, didn't like it. No Prayer for the Dying. I was like, okay. And then I heard this and I was like, yeah, okay, this is yeah, I really like this. It's just a shame that they give it this sort of stupid title and I mean we're going to be talking about Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter soon. I can't stand that song title either. So it's like this I look at this record and there's there's I just I don't know. I don't get it. Explain it to me.
I can't explain it to you because I totally agree with it. So the only thing that's bad with this song is the title. It's so unnecessary. But the lyric is quite good. It's about sort of green hypocrites, uh, and I think the lyric is, well, I guess it's kind of relevant even today about how this generation of people is treating the planet. So, like Bruce is singing, let's hope that the new generation is will take better care of the environment and what we are doing. And this lyric is from 1990. Uh, this was one song that was actually sort of finalized and put together while they were recording the album. It is not like you can hear it doesn't feel rushed or contrived or anything. It's just a great rocking song, and it's actually one of my favorite Maiden songs of all. I just love this song, but it's hard to say that one of my favorite Maiden songs is a Public Enema number one. What did you call it? Is that even a name of a song? That doesn't sound right. But this is, along with Tail Gunner, this is like the two favorite tracks for me on this album. And it has this great solo by Dave also, doing a bit of finger tapping even. I mean,
Yeah.
come on, Dave Murray. And it's only him playing the solo on this one, whereas on the other songs it's been like Jan and Dave or Dave and Jan altering.
Yeah.
Great song.
Oh, speaking of Dave Murray, we have a Murray
Mm-hmm.
Harris written tune with the next one, Fate's Warning.
Mm-hmm.
Cool album title or cool song title. This one I really like. This is another one that I like. I like the moody intro, and Steve has some great bass lines throughout this one also. I especially love like right before the choruses come in, he does this really cool like bass fill, and I think it's awesome. The guitar solos are really good. They're nice and melodic. Whereas some of leading up to this point, maybe the guitar solo sounded a little haphazard at times, just kind of, throwing their fingers around. I think in this one, there's a nice melodic sense to the guitar solos that I really like. So yeah, this is a kind of a deep cut that I like on this record.
Yeah. It's kind of weird, and it's always been like this for me. It's one of the songs I don't really think about. It's like Face Warning, yeah, it's that one. But when I actually hear it, when I listen to the
Yeah,
album, it's like, yeah, this is a good one. But
yeah.
at the same, it's some weird thing that it's for me kind of forgettable, but it's still a great song. I can't explain that. There's something wrong with my head, I think.
Well, they don't
Uh,
say there's Fate's Warning is just looking over the lyrics. It's not in the chorus of the song.
uh,
It's not like repeated. And you're right. I'm the same way. I have to sort of, in some ways, I have to remind myself of which one this is because it
mm,
doesn't kind of, but then, yeah, when I hear it, it's like, Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, this one. I like this one, but
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. It is kind of it's easy to forget about it, but not because it's a bad song. I don't know, that doesn't make any sense, but
No, it doesn't. It's a weird one. I like the solos. I like the slow. It's a Dave song, and usually, at least, not on Public Enema, but on this one, there's a slow Dave solo starting off one of his songs, which is a trick that we have heard before and will hear again in the future. Uh, but I just like this one. It's also one of the last songs to be done for the album, and it was sort of done in the studio while recording the album, even Fate's Warning. But it's a good one, and that ends side one. And this is one of the points with this album I think we should bear in mind is that this is, in a weird way, it might seem, but it's the last Iron Maiden album made for vinyl.
yeah,
From Fear the Dark and onwards, they were writing and thinking for the
CD.
songs and the length to be released on CD. But doing this one, it was still a mindset of making an album worth fitting one vinyl album.
Yeah.
Uh, so let's flip side and go over to side two and listen to The Assassin.
The Assassin, Steve Harris number.
Mm,
I love that bass thing that he's playing. The guitar
mm,
is holding out those chords and he's playing that. It's almost like a very proggy, like it
mm,
sounds like something that Rush would do or something. And even though this record is supposed to be a back to basics and everything, you kind of wish that they could have explored more stuff like this. Maybe they
mm,
could have found a little bit more of a happy medium. Uh, that said, I find the chorus to be disappointing in this song. Those background vocals, better watch out, better
they're
watch
they're
out,
so lame.
assassin,
They're so lame.
assassin. And then the way it like stops, assassin, assassin. It's just like the chorus is a big, big letdown. It starts off really strong, like you're expecting, like, wow, this where's this gonna go? Is it, we're gonna kind of get something kind of epic, prog-like or something, and and again the chorus, the way it drops down,
Mm,
better watch out, then it drops down, better watch out, just like it's the chorus doesn't work. And this is, you mentioned earlier, I don't remember what song you were talking about, that you were like it was maybe unfinished. And
mm,
this record has kind of a lot of that across some of these songs that it's like, yeah, okay, that bass intro, yeah, okay, that's really cool, earmark that. Chorus, eh, not
mm,
working. So, guys, you know what? Let's just hold off on this. Let's hold some of these pieces. We'll come back to
mm,
it. But instead, like they just, and again, it feels like they're also maybe at a point in their career where they're having to force it a little bit more.
mm,
Sounds forced. Whereas on the early stuff, it just sounds like everything is clicking and it's just flowing out of these guys. I can just picture them in a studio like, oh, I've got this riff. That's great. I'll play this over. Oh, that's great. I'll sing this over it. Oh man, that's amazing. And it's just stuff just
mm,
flowing and happening. Whereas with this, it's kind of like, oh, well, does somebody have a chorus for it? Well, okay, how about this? Okay, well, let's see if we can make that work. Maybe we can sort of
mm,
shoehorn that, you know what I mean? And it, to me, it just feels like some of the well is running a little bit dry,
mm,
and it just sounds a little bit forced. I do really like the rhythm and stuff that's going on underneath the guitar solos. I think that's very, very cool, and again, kind of progressive. And
mm.
I like Yannick's solo in this one. He does like this thing where he's like playing like harmonics, like moving his finger across his, well, like at least I think that's him, unless it's,
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah,
yeah, he does like this kind of crazy. This is one where it's like a crazy guitar solo, but it works. I like it.
yeah.
So yeah, it's like kind of a tale of two songs. It's like, man, there's parts of this I really like, And then there's
mm,
other parts that just, they just should have put it on a shelf and said, you know what, let's wait till something a little bit more inspiring with the chorus
mm.
comes up.
Yeah, I think it's a great song with the bad chorus, and
Yeah.
that's what you already said. So I don't have much to add about that. And I also agree that Steve's bass playing, particularly on this one, is very very inspired. And I I think the star of the whole album is Nico McBrain. I think I would stick my neck out and say that No Pray for the Dying is perhaps the most inspired drums by Nico ever. His playing is like all over the place, but not like in a bad wild way, but in a like a super Nico with all the fills and parts. And on this song Assassin, it's like, yeah, I love this. I love Nico the way he's playing here. I think it's great. Actually, this was the song that they started to record when Adrian just had left the band. So starting to record this one, they only had one guitar player in the band, uh, which is a bit weird to think about. It was the first song, as we understand, it was the first song that they started to record for No Pray for the Dying. But yeah, again, I won't repeat myself. But it's a great song with a bad chorus, and they did this live, uh, and greatly so, I think. Uh, Love this one, but yeah, could have had a bit more inspired chorus.
All right, Run Silent, Run Deep. This one has the opposite for me. I really like the chorus in this one. I don't particularly care for the verses, and I think it's because of the way that Bruce is singing. I don't like that. Although I like the line about Davy Jones. I think that always jumps out at me.
Mm,
Uh, Steve again has some great bass stuff, especially underneath the the chorus and but I like the solos in this one because they have kind of a modal feel to them. It sounds a little different. But I just don't like Bruce's vocals in the verse of this. And unfortunately, this is a thing on this record where it's like great chorus, not so great verse, great verse, not so great chorus,
mm,
cool intro, but you know what I mean? It's like it's very hard for them to seem to put together from beginning to end just a song that is just really, really great. I mean, honestly, even though it sounded like I was a little down on Tail Gunner, Tail Gunner is probably one of the most even songs on this record, you
mm,
know? But yeah,
mm.
so Running Silent, Running Deep, cool chorus, don't like the verses.
Yeah. The interesting thing about this one, I think it's a good song. It's not like it's super impressive or anything, but it's a good song. Uh, the lyric is actually by Bruce, and it was from one of his acoustic songs that he presented to the band back in 1986 when they were getting ready to record Somewhere in Time. But as you remember from that episode, all of Bruce's songs were discarded by the band and by Martin Birch. Uh, but Harris had this song, and he asked Bruce, "Do you have any words?" And he sort of remembered the lyrics he had for this by now 4 year old, at least 4 year old song, "Run Silent, Run Deep," and uh, and it works. I think the lyrics is quite good. The title actually comes from a war movie, Clark Gable, Burt Lancaster movie from 1958. But it's not like the lyric sort of only deals with that movie, but the title is from that movie and it deals with submarines and so on. Funny, funny enough, on Tattoo Millionaire, there's this song called Dive, 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 which is also about submarines, or,
Mm,
well, it's not about submarines, it's just a sexual innuendo kind of lyric. But this is like the serious one. And
mm.
I think it's a good one, but it's not like jaw droppingly good, but okay.
All right,
But
I'm gonna break.
it's
Yeah.
better than the next one.
Well, I'm going to break from tradition here and I'm going to talk about the next two songs. Hooks in
Mm.
You and Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. I don't like either of these. I Hooks in You. I don't like this chorus. I don't like the way it's too straight ahead, too. I know that was the thing with this, the rock sound, Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. I'll admit that the chorus in Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter is pretty decent, but I hate that song title. Uh, it just sounds almost comedic. And I know it was in a movie and everything, but the problem is, I say this all the time. Like when I first got the CD, I didn't know that was part of the Nightmare on Elm Street. I just missed that. I didn't know that. So all I see is a song title that I think is not very good. And after we had Public Enemy #1, and you're just kind of thinking to yourself, like, what is going on here? But both these songs, they're just too kind of straightforward, almost like AC/DC like at times. And I don't know, I just don't like them. They're dated. Uh, I like hooks. I like Bring Your Daughter to Slaughter a little bit more because I think the chorus is better in Bring Your Daughter to Slaughter. But I hate the way Bruce sings the chorus in Hooks in You. I just don't like either of these songs. They really drag the record down for me. I don't like Iron Maiden into this zone kind of radio melodic rock. I'm not exactly sure what they're shooting for. I hate that opening riff to Hooks in You. It just almost sounds goofy and silly to me. It's just, and it's a thing that like with this whole record, I think what initially turned me off to this record was this kind of like Public Enemy #1. Like, oh, like they're trying to be funny and Bring Your Daughter to Slaughter. I don't like that title either. I don't particularly like Hooks in You. So there was just this like feeling with this record that I don't know. Just, and I know they were trying to go for a more straight ahead rock type of thing, but doesn't work for me. Particularly like listening to these songs. Now, I could make a killer CD of my favorite songs from this album and Fear the Dark, and it would be a killer CD. But Hooks in You and Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter wouldn't be on that CD.
Mm. Not on mine either, I would say. Hooks and You was the only song that Adrian was involved with before he left the band, which is a bit disappointing. If this was the direction or the ideas
Yeah,
that Adrian had for No Pray for the Dying, maybe he should have. Maybe he should leave the band. There
yeah.
are some people. There are some people who think that "Hooks and You" is actually like the worst Maiden song ever. I don't think it's the worst ever, but it's for sure in the bottom of all
It's
Maiden
a
songs.
contender.
Yeah, it definitely is. The backstory is kind of funny. Bruce and his then wife Patty were looking for a house to buy, and they found this house. And in one of the rooms, there was this. They had like big industrial hooks hanging from the beams in the roof, and that made Bruce going, "Oh, I wonder what they might have been doing in here." Oh, sort of innuendo kind of thing. It's also the mention of at number 22, which goes back to Acacia Avenue, of course. This was surprisingly enough a strong contender to be the first single of the album, which is mind blowing to even think about. Um, no, I don't like this. The intro with the cowbell, it's just too much, literally.
Oh,
And I think the
oh, I
one
forgot about
one
the cowbell.
yeah, the one redeeming thing about this is the unison solo, because that is quite unusual for Maiden to have where they play like a guitar solo in unison, but they do in this one, Yannick and Dave. I continue to Bring Your Daughter. It's like I mentioned before, it's done by Bruce. It's not one of my favorites at all. Maybe I liked it for like 2 weeks in 1990, but I grew tired of it very quickly. Um, I think the only fun trivia I have to say about this song that I haven't really mentioned before even is that I remember Bruce saying in an interview that as he was asked to write the lyrics for the Nightmare on Elm Street, he was thinking about what is like the deep concept of these movies. What are they actually about? and his idea was that it's about young girls' fear of their first menstruation. That's that. So he wrote a lyrics sort of dealing with that, but with other words. I think that's quite funny, but yeah. No, it's not. It's actually one. It's the only song that have been played at all after this tour, late on later tours from this album, and we will talk about the singles later on in the this episode. But it was indeed their first and only number one hit single in the UK. But we'll talk about that a bit later.
All right, the album wraps up with Mother Russia. This is the longest song on the record at 5 minutes and 30 seconds.
Mm,
It's occupies that spot that you're expecting the epic
mm,
last song on the record. All right, there's some things I like about this. There are some riffs here and there. I kind of like when the keyboards come in. Uh, but this is a perfect example of this was just not cooked long enough in the oven. This is that rhythm, the ba da 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 da. It the tempo is too slow. It's too plodding, and there really aren't much lyrics to this song. Like, okay, I don't know what you want to call it. You want to call it the verse or the chorus? If you call the Mother Russia, how are you? Is that the verse or is that the chorus? I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. If you call it the verse, there's no
mm,
chorus in this song. If you call it the chorus, there's no verses in this song. It's like all of them are the same. And you get these two verses, pretty short verses at the beginning of the song, and then it immediately goes into all the instrumental parts, which are kind of cool. And I do like
mm,
the changes, but again, it kind of sounds like, all right, I've got this section. We're just going to play it for a little bit. Then we're going to move to this section and play that for a little. Then we're going to move this. Then we're going to move it. Then we're going to.
mm.
And eventually we come back and he sings the same melody. The melody isn't very interesting. It's basically just doubling that guitar riff. Uh, and then the song's over. It's like there's no lyrics to the song. So you can't really, don't feel like you can really get behind it. It doesn't, like usually Steve's epics can conjure up a cool mood, like To Tame a Land. You know, you sort of feel like you're on a barren planet type of thing. Phantom of the Opera.
Mm.
Uh, uh, I just forgot the name of the last song on Hallowed Be Thy Name. You know, you feel like you're being walked to the gallows type of thing. You know, he's very good at that. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner feels like you're out at sea. This, again, it just feels half baked. And I
It
kind of like
doesn't feel
listening.
like you're in Russia.
Yeah, I kind of like listening to it because I like some of the riffs are cool,
Mm,
but they just don't go anywhere. And this song is just kind of like it's like a decent idea. And what was the other one that I said? I said Fate's Warning, I think, was one. It just should have been put on a shelf and finished up and worked on at another time. Like this song is not done. It's
mm.
it's just I mean, what's here is kind of cool. I like the idea of it, but and again, this is like this whole record when you, even though I enjoy listening to this record, when I really sit down and think about it, I'm like, all right, well, is Mother Russia as good or better than any of the other epics from the albums before the Seventh Son, Alexander the Great? No. Tail Gunner, it's not a bad song, but is it, is it as good as a bunch of the other album openers?
Mm.
Not really. So yeah, this is just again, somebody should have told him like, guys, you know what? Let's all take 6 months, take a break, and let's just come back when everybody's rejuvenated and fresh, and you can just kind of feel it being forced. I forget what other song I mentioned that ended. It just feels like it's forced, and this is the same thing. Like it's just, I think I can get this peg into this hole. if I push a
mm,
little bit harder, you know?
mm.
And again, it's not, and what's frustrating is that there's cool things in it, but it's just not really that great of a song. It's just like okay.
Mm.
It's disappointing, and that's kind of the feel of this whole record and this whole time period is it's just like they're really struggling. They're just it
Mm.
doesn't feel natural. It just doesn't feel like it's clicking for them. Things that just fell into place naturally and just worked out.
Mm.
Wow, that came out fantastic. This, I mean, did anybody listen to this at the end and go, "Yeah, this is the new Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner"? Yeah.
But they didn't try to make a Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. They were not going for that.
Yeah.
And you said that they maybe should have taken a break. They did take a break before starting to write these songs,
They should have taken
but
a longer one.
but then they were sort of in a hurry to just get it
Well,
recorded.
maybe that's what
And
it is. They were in a hurry.
so yeah, yeah, I think so. I think so. And that was one of the conflicts that I mentioned with Adrian Smith because he thought that why not write 10 more songs and then we pick the best songs. We don't
Yeah.
need to be in a hurry. Okay. But the only song that Adrian himself presented or came up with working with Bruce was Hooks and You, which is an awful song. Not awful, but it's not
Yeah.
good. By Maiden standard, it's one of their worst. So final thoughts and Mother Russia wrapped up in one here before we start to talk about the singles. I think that Mother Russia is hugely underdeveloped as a song. Just like you mentioned, it doesn't really go anywhere, but I do like many of the parts.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I think what they should have done here, my hot take is that they should have made an instrumental song
Mm.
and
Yeah.
maybe like a 4 minute instrumental.
Because there's
Just
really
cut.
no melody here. He's
No,
just singing
exactly.
along with the riff. So I totally agree with you. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
This would have been a great instrumental.
Yeah, they should have, and they should have done another longer song or something else. Just do something else. But Mother Russia isn't that song, and I mean, Mother Russia is one of the few songs they didn't play live from this album. So I guess they didn't think it was that great themselves even
Yeah.
at the time. But they did play like Tail Gunner. Or let me mention the songs they didn't play. They didn't play this one. They didn't play Hooks in You, a song that they actually thought releasing as their first single.
Yeah.
But I mean, they came to their senses eventually, and they also didn't play Fate's Warning, but they did all the other songs of the album. If I'm not missing out something great here, but anyway. So again, to just round off this album, was Adrian right? Should they have done that? Should they have waited for to record
Yeah.
in Munich? Should they have written 10 more songs? I don't know. At the same time, and I mean, I'm like I said before, I'm a huge Adrian Smith fanboy. But actually, at the same time, which is a conflicting thought here, this is I'm just so glad that they have an album like this in their catalog. There are many of these songs that I enjoy. I think it's a cool thing that they try to make a live in the studio sort of album. I like the energy of many of these songs. And I mean, if, to be really harsh, I would love for Maiden to do something like this today
Mm.
and
Yeah.
just shorter songs, just
Yeah.
narrow it down a bit, just more to the point. At least have a few more songs each album that is in the No Pray for the Dying sort of style, if you would like to call it.
Yeah.
Are these the best set of songs? Is this like my favorite Iron Maiden album? Hell no, it's not. It's not. But it's actually is somewhere in the middle for me. And I know I'm sort of unique in that way that I think I rate it that high compared to many albums that we'll discuss later. Because among many Maiden fans, this is considered the consensus is that this is a rather weak album, and it's not a favorite. It always ranks really low when fans are
Mhm.
voting for that like their favorite
Yeah.
albums. So yeah, there's this one thing that I mentioned before that Bruce was like the first one to piss on this album. He's also always the first one to sort of detract if something's not working. He's the first one to say, "Yeah, it was wrong. We should have done something else instead." But the quote I think I read somewhere is that he thought that the first Dream Theater album came out in 89 or 90
Yeah.
or something like that. And he thought when he compared those two albums, like that's a debut album from a band. And we are like an experienced band with a budget. And their album still sounds better than our album. And he thought that there's something wrong here. And that's why they choose to be sort of more production heavy on Fear the Dark when it comes to the sounds and especially the
Yeah.
drum sound. But we'll talk about that in the next episode. Do
Yeah.
you
If
have
I,
any like final thought about this album?
yeah,
Because
I
I,
mean, I just sum it up. You sort of said it. It's a confusing record. I have
yeah,
conflicting feelings on it and confusing. Uh, so yeah, that kind of just sums it up for me. There's things I like about it. There's things that I don't. It's kind of hard to totally go one way or another with this record. So, all right,
yeah.
well, let's move into the singles.
Okay, so for the singles of No Prayer for the Dying, we have first the Holy Smoke single. It was released on the 10th of September in the UK in 1990. And here's a
Oh, is that a
cassette
cassette
single.
single? Okay.
Yeah, it's they did UK cassette singles for pretty much all the singles releases. I just didn't think about uh, showing them in this show and tell. Sorry if you're listening on the podcast, but this is a exclusive cassette single viewing.
That's your inspiration to look up the video on the Layer of the Alchemist YouTube channel because Matthias does a show and tell
Yeah,
during these episodes. Do you have the cassette singles for all the other
uh,
singles that we've talked about?
yeah. I have the official cassette singles from the UK, all of them, and this is one of the very last ones they did. For the next single for Bring Your Daughter, I think was actually the very last cassette single they released in the UK. And I mean,
Interesting.
it's quite weird because it's only a two-track single. Since it's a single, I don't know why they didn't put on the both of the bonus tracks on the cassette, but for some reason they choose not to.
Okay, so the
So
cassette only has Holy Smoke on one side and All in Your Mind on the other.
exactly,
Okay.
very very weird. So as you mentioned, it's all in your mind. It's a cover song. It's a song by a UK band named Stray, and it's from their debut album with the same name from 1970. And I think the Maiden version is good, but it can't at all be matched with the intensity and energy from the original Stray version, which I think is just brilliant. And the Stray version is over 9 minutes long. The LP version. There is a single cut as well because this was like their big hit. And the Maiden version is much closer to the single edit that Stray put out, also in 1970. Uh, All in Your Mind. I just love this song. I think it's really really good. And Maiden's version is quite good. Have you been listening to these
Yeah.
these covers and the original versions as well?
Yeah. Yeah, and I was familiar with Stray because I'm a big fan of proto metal,
Yeah,
obscure early, early heavy rock. So I have a playlist in my Apple Music where I search for these bands and I've put them in there. And that this Stray album from 1970, which is where I believe this song came from, is in there. And you're right, it does have a very the original version is very raw and kind of dirty and loud. It
yeah,
sounds like a band set up in a garage just playing really, really loud. And it's really cool. It's really heavy for 1970. Uh, so yeah, it's a cool cover that they would cover a band like this. I'm guessing that I don't know if I mean, Stray didn't have any success, I don't believe, in the US, but maybe over in the UK they had some, in London they had some reckoning, because that's where they're from, right? London.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
so maybe they had some, and I noticed too here, it looks like they're from West London, which is where Steve's from, right? Steve's from
Yeah.
West London.
No, he's from East London.
Okay. So maybe they were on, maybe they were more popular over there. Maybe since they were a local band, he was aware of them. But it's pretty cool for them to cover a band like this. And I was trying to think that this might be the first cover that they do that if you didn't tell me this was a cover, and I didn't know any better, and you told me that this was an outtake from No Prayer for the Dying, I would probably
Mhm.
believe you because it
Mhm.
sounds like it could be a song from No Prayer for the Dying. It
Yeah.
has that da 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 da, that little melody
Mhm.
line and riff in the guitar there is very like this era of Iron Maidens. So yeah, it's pretty cool that I think they pick a song that, and I think that the original has its charm for its primitive nature, but I kind of like the way what Iron Maiden does with it here. It again, it really sounds like it could have been a song from No Prayer for the. It could have slotted into No Prayer for the Dying, and I don't think the
Mhm.
average person would have detected that it was a cover. It feels really natural to the band, and so
I think only the lyric and the lyric matter sort of gives it away as not in
yeah.
a 1990s song. But yeah, I think it's a great one. The weird thing, I was listening to the original version earlier today, and I think there's two drums tracks recorded because sometimes the snare drum is clearly out of sync. So
Mm,
I think they actually dubbed the drums, which
I
is
didn't even notice. Yeah.
really weird. But unfortunately, I have to say that I checked out some of their later albums. Our Maiden producer and producer for this song as well, the Maiden version, Martin Birch, worked with Stray later in the 70s. But I must say, I think the debut is essential. The rest isn't really for me, unfortunately, because I think the first album, the 1970 album, is really good. But they sort of, I don't know if there were drugs involved or managers and producer, but I just think they sort of lost it very quickly. They have been
Yeah.
doing gigs on and off, and I think they even opened up for Maiden in the reunion era at a few gigs as
Oh
a
wow.
sort of special guest. I think Steve Harris is the stray guy in the band who wanted them to open up for Maiden for a few gigs. I think it was in
Yeah.
Spain or something. Yeah, but great song. And the second song is, of course, a Golden Earring track. It's from their 1975 Switch album. And again, Steve Harris is a huge Golden Earring band. And it's on the maxi single, the 12-inch versions. This is a picture disc, and it has "Kill Me Ce Soir" as a bonus track. Uh, it's good, but it's not like favorites cover of Iron Maiden's doing. I don't know. It just gets a bit. I wouldn't say dull exactly. It's not a dull song, but it's not. It's sort of lacks a bit of energy, if you ask me. And apparently, Steve was very. He sort of decided that they shouldn't do any of the big golden earrings uh, tracks, but more of an obscure track, and he picked "Kill Me Ce Soir." And what do you think about
Yeah, I'm
the?
with you. I think it's kind of dull. Golden Earring is one of those bands that hearing Steve talk about them made me go back, and I knew who they were because they had a
Mm,
big song in the 80s, Twilight Zone. If you're of the MTV age, you probably remember that video got played like crazy.
Radar Love
And
must be
Radar
like,
Love was
yeah.
covered by a lot of bands.
mm,
But I heard Steve talk about them, and Golden Earring's one of these bands that they've been around a long time. They have a ton of records out, so it's kind of confusing where you go in their catalog. But I eventually bought Moontan, and that's the one that has Radar Love on it, which I think is from like
mm,
'73 or something like that. And I do really like them. I just don't really like this song. I just think it's like okay, it's a bummer. I wish they had maybe done something like Candy's Going Bad or Are You Receiving Me or Vanilla Queen, something else from. They didn't have to do Radar Love from Moontan, but they
mm.
could have maybe picked something else from there. I'm not sure why. I don't know. It's not a bad song. It's just that it's okay and it doesn't.
For some
I,
reason, I don't really enjoy Bruce's harsh vocals on this
yeah,
one. It doesn't really work for me. So I think that is one of the reasons I don't like super enjoy the Maiden version.
yeah,
Whereas
but it's
on the previous track we talked about, his vocal is just suits the energy of the song much better. But for this one, it's
yeah.
like I don't know.
And even at the beginning of the song, he's singing it kind of weird. Like right at the beginning, I almost didn't even know if that was him singing. But yeah, I just don't really care for it. And it's a bummer because I could sort of picture other people who maybe don't know Golden Earring or only know them for Radar Love and hearing this and kind of being like not really being particularly excited to go check them out. Where something like that Stray cover, I could
Mm,
see somebody like, "Whoa, this is kind of cool." I should check this band out, type
mm,
of thing. And I think that I think I think Maiden does it the right way when it comes to these covers and B-sides that they do. You get basically four things. You either get a live cut, you get a band that influenced them, an obscure
mm,
band, or them kind of bringing up an obscure band, like here with Stray. You have bands that really influence them, like we're going to be talking about Montrose in the
mm,
next episode. Uh, you sort of have these different, and then you have the comedy songs that they
mm,
do. They're just sort of inside joke type songs. So it's cool. I think it's neat what they do. I do just wish they had maybe picked another song from Golden Earring, but
mm. I agree with you. So, moving on to "Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter" was the second single, and like I said before, there is this cassette single version.
ooh,
Uh, yeah,
that's a
it
different
is.
cover than the I'm looking at Wiki. Oh no, yeah, you're right. It is the alternate cover. Yeah, there's two different covers for this.
So what they did here is that they were deliberately trying to get on top of the chart in the UK. So first up, they decided to release the single around Christmas, where usually bands don't uh, put out their singles because it's a holiday and you
Mhm.
don't want your new single to sort of just disappear in the all the Christmas shopping and
Yeah.
everything else. So what they did, which was very clever actually, they released a few different formats. So it's the regular single with "I'm a Mover" uh, on this one. They also put out this one, which is a flip top,
Wow.
and inside of this version is the
Wow.
uh, a
I've never
holiday
seen that
greeting,
before. Yeah.
yeah, and
Wow.
uh, and this.
Did you buy that when it came out or did you get it
No,
later?
I bought all these on the release, and there was also a 12-inch picture disc which had this
Yeah.
illustration, and this is actually not a UK one. This is a European maxi single, which actually is trickier to get hold of than some of the so-called limited edition singles. But like I said, they released four different formats around Christmas in 1990, and of course, Maiden, being Maiden, having loyal fans, everyone, all the UK Maiden fans went out and bought it, and it got straight into number one. And this was actually a bit of a, I wouldn't say scandal, but there were comments made in the British press by other record labels that they thought it was a very sort of cheap trick to do that,
Mm,
because according to other labels, it was a sort of a gentleman's agreement that Christmas and New Year is like
yeah,
it's an off season,
yeah.
and but I mean they wanted a number one and they got a number one,
Wow.
so that good on them, I say. Uh, so what about the songs? There is "I'm a Mover" that I said was on the single. So "I'm a Mover" by Free is on all the different editions. Uh, the song "I'm a Mover" is on the also the debut album, just like the Stray song, and it's on an album called Tons of Sobs from 1969. And Free, as you all of you know, was very, very popular, but they were around for a very limited time. I think only like 3 or 4 years or something
Mhm.
before they broke up. And "I'm a Mover" isn't, of course, not their most known song. It's All Right Now that it's actually it's one of the few songs that have topped the chart in the UK uh, 3 times, I think. I
Wow.
might be, yeah. So there's been re-releases, and it's been going to number one a couple of times. I really like the Maiden version. I think it's really, really good. I like the original version. Of course, Bruce isn't really a Paul Rodgers when it comes to the vocals, but I think that Bruce's vocals on this one, and apart from many of the other No Prayer session recordings, he sings this one with a much cleaner voice. And I think he does a very good job on doing his sort of bluesy rock blues take on "I'm a Mover" by Free. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I that Bruce's delivery on it is really good. Paul Rodgers being a really influential vocalist, respected vocalist from that sort of blues rock from the early 70s blues rock scene. Uh, it's interesting. I think the band does a good job and they seem like they try to stick pretty closely to the original. But what's kind of funny is, and I was A-Bing it back and forth between the original and the Iron Maiden version, there's a lack of laid backness and swing to it that when you listen to the original has this, and they play it
Mm,
at basically the same tempo. And I was sitting there going back and forth, really trying to put my finger on
mm,
why the original seems like it just grooves and swings a little bit harder. And I can't really give you a reason why. I can't say it's because of this or it's because of that. All I can say is it's a perception thing. I don't know. Somebody analyzed it on a computer. Maybe you'd see that the drums are 1 millionth of a second behind the beat or something. I don't know.
mm,
But there's some ever so slightly perceivable thing that and I guess this is, yeah, it made me think of this is what chemistry is in a band. And I mean, Iron Maiden excels at, Steve is, that was the one thing I might have pointed out was that Steve is a very on top of the beat, pushing it type of bass player. Whereas in this original version here, the bass is very laid back. Nico does a pretty good job. Like it starts with
mm,
that drum beat and the drum fill and everything. But yeah, don't get me wrong. I think they did a good job of it, but it kind of sounds like a heavy metal band.
mm.
They sound like a metal band
Yeah,
playing something like this, whereas Free sounds like a blues rock band. You know,
yeah.
they sort of lack that ever so subtle secret ingredient, the swing, the feel. I don't know, these elusive things that you can't really explain what they are. You just sort of hear it and you feel it. So it is
Mm,
sort of
mm,
lacking in that a little bit, but otherwise it's cool and you can feel sort of the reverence here with the guys. Like you mentioned, Bruce, I'd imagine in the back of his mind, he's thinking, I've Paul Rogers here. I gotta I gotta do this justice. I can't go too crazy on this. Paul Kossoff on guitar. He's a
Mm.
very sort of I wouldn't say he's underrated. He's cited as an influence by a lot of people. He's maybe not as a household name like Jimi Hendrix or Jimmy Page or something like
No.
that, but he's a guy that's very often cited. Like for instance, Ace Frehley cites him
Mm.
as his like main influence, and I'm
Yeah.
sure the guys in Maiden were very aware of the importance of this band, and Andy Fraser on bass, Simon Kirke on drums. They're
Mm.
all just, fantastic players. So I
Yeah.
think they treat this cover with respect. Let's put
Yeah.
it that way.
But I think there is one main difference between Free and Our Maiden, and that is the age. I mean, Free, when they recorded their debut album, I think none of them were above 20. I think they were like teenagers, pretty much all
Yeah.
of them. I think. And Our Maiden is well into their career, and maybe I'm not saying they're too good of performers, but maybe it's a bit, maybe
Yeah.
that, like you said, that extra sort of just getting a bit
Yeah.
behind, and getting that sort of
Push and
blues.
pull type of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. The Maiden guys are maybe just a bit too tight. And talking about Nico, that is a weird thing because he is sometimes not that tight. But I totally get what you're saying about the differences. Another thing that I think is quite, and perhaps people don't know this, but the classic Dave Murray guitar was previously owned by Paul Kossoff.
Oh
So
wow. I
for
didn't know that.
for me, so that dark blue and white pickguard guitar with a maple neck is was previously owned, and I know that Dave bought it through an ad in the newspaper, like New Musical Express or something like that. So of course there is an obvious influence in for Dave Murray as well. I think you're saying that maybe Paul Kossoff isn't like an household name, and I think that unfortunately just gets down because he passed away at a very young
Yeah.
age. I think if he'd been around a bit longer and maybe yeah, just been there playing his music, he probably would have been a bigger name today. But yeah, I like that one. So also on the 12-inch versions is Communication Breakdown by Led Zeppelin, and also from their debut album. We are beginning to see a theme here. It's debut album recordings, which also came out in 1969, of course. Unlike Free, Led Zeppelin, while recording their debut album, wasn't exactly teenagers. They were like,
Seasoned
uh,
guys. Yeah.
see, even though they were young, they had been around for quite a while and playing on all sorts of records, especially Jimmy Page, of course, Robert Plant and Jimmy Page. I think this is also a good version. I think it's a fun choice for Maiden to do this Led Zeppelin song. And I think, to me at the time, maybe this is a sort of, maybe I'm fooling myself here a bit, but I am quite sure that I've read an interview somewhere with Bruce where he is talking about his influences, and that he sort of made a point out of not being influenced by Robert Plant as a vocalist, because that was like,
Yeah.
or and not saying that he disliked Led Zeppelin, but like it wasn't really his thing. Deep Purple, Ian Gillan,
Mhm.
that was his sort of um, uh, inspiration. But Communication Breakdown is a good song, and I think Maiden versions is pretty energetic. Lots of energy in the Maiden version. So yeah, I think they're doing a great job here.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of
Mm.
energy to it, and I think Bruce sounds great. He
Mm.
when especially, stop what you're doing, those like
Uh,
high
uh,
notes. Bruce
uh,
just really belts those out where he has a bit more of a bigger sound to his upper range than Robert Plant does. Robert Plant, when he goes up higher, he had a little bit of a different tone to his voice, and I just think that
yeah,
Bruce sounds, I'm obviously Robert Plant's amazing, and I can see how Bruce would. I like the fact that he just kind of sings it his way, and it really works, because Bruce has the range and everything, and this is a little bit more this sort of pushing fast up tempo thing
yeah.
works
I
for
think
works for Iron Maiden and
it's also worth noting that many of the leads on all these four recordings from No Prayer sessions and the solos are by Janik,
mm,
actually. And I think many of these choices or picks by the band and the sort of tracks that they are sort of works for Janik
yeah,
as well. So I think it's a good good choice to have Janik doing the 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 main part of the solos and leads for these four songs.
yeah,
And I also think that they sound really good. I mean,
yeah,
over the years there's been a lot of criticism for No Prayer and the lack of sound quality, and we've talked about the sound quality for No Prayer a bit already. But I mean, for the cover choices, I think the sound is perfect. I think
yeah,
they sound very good being recorded and performed this way by the band, and
yeah,
as recorded by Martin Birch, of course.
yeah, absolutely. All right, well, there you go. There's No Prayer for the Dying and its accompanying singles. Like we've mentioned throughout the episode here, you really need to go to the Laird the Alchemist YouTube channel and see this live because you can see all of Matthias's collection that he's showing us throughout the video. So head on over there. Matthias is a band, Dead Cosmonaut. I'm pretty certain that if you're a fan of good hard rock and good heavy metal and Iron Maiden, that you will find lots to like from Dead Cosmonaut. I've heard some rumors that they have some new music in the pipeline, so
Mm.
you can check that out. And, keep your eyes and ears open for that. I also do a Black Sabbath podcast with my friend Darren. It's called Into the Void, a Black Sabbath podcast. And I do an AC/DC podcast with author Martin Popoff called Kicked in the Teeth, an AC/DC podcast. So make sure you check out all those podcasts on all the streaming networks. And from both Matthias and I, we'll see you out there somewhere in time.